Welcome everybody to Go Local Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. It's Wednesday. It's a little gloomy out, but it is Mott Chace Day. That makes everything better. We've got Ben Scungio. Ben Scungio, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey Josh, not even the humidity can get in the way of this conversation.
Not even the humidity. So let's jump to it. Big prices. You guys issued the report last week, and then the Rhode Island Association of Realtors came out with their report. For the first time, really ever, all-time record, we are over $500,000 for median price of a single-family home. We are up and away on prices. What does this mean? Where are we going?
So GoLocal obviously reported this from our market report earlier in the week. You know, the median price of a home right now is $512,000 in the state of Rhode Island, and the median asking price is almost $550,000. So that means if you're out there home shopping, 90% of your homes that you're looking at are around $500,000, no matter where you are in the state of Rhode Island. Obviously, the luxury market is a different segment, but your primary home is, it's $500,000. That's what you're going to be paying for a home in the state of Rhode Island. And what does this mean? We've been predicting this for a while, right? That the average price, we've just seen it in the fours for so long, 425, and then 450, and then 475, and then at this time last year, we were like right at the cusp of 500. We were like at 495, 485, but the median price never got there. And what happened was basic economics. There's still not a lot of supply out there over the, for the first 2 quarters of the year, and people are still willing to pay a premium. They still need a place to live. They still want to buy real estate. So that's really driven the price in the state up.
There's no new product either, right? Isn't that a big factor?
Product. There's no product at all. We're just dealing. I mean, a lot of the sales that come through our offices are resales. I mean, there are barely any new construction homes out there right now. And, if you look at the national statistics, even new construction nationwide is starting to slow down. And, a lot of that conversation just comes, with the cost of building is really high. Builders are dealing with inflation. They're dealing with tariffs. They're dealing with finding labor. It's a hard business to be in right now. And, if we don't have more new homes coming available to the market locally and nationally, it's going to be interesting to see where the numbers go. We're going to still see the average price of a home go up.
Ben, talk about this for a little bit. You would think that prices might stabilize because there's just not that much activity because of interest rates being higher. But we've sort of seen a zig while we expected a zag, right?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think the interest rates are playing a huge role in what's going on right now in the market, because if interest rates just came down a quarter of a point, there, you could see you should see buyers entering the marketplace. I mean, we had seen interest rates come down a little bit, and a lot of the lenders that I work with, they saw an influx of applications come in just from going from like 7% to 6.8 or 6.7. Interest rates right now are around 6.85 on average nationwide. Imagine if those rates came down to 5.5. Imagine if those rates came down to 6. That would really spark more buyers to engage in the market because it makes things so more affordable. We're having this conversation about what's affordable, what's not affordable. And I can tell you that for a lot of people, even at $550,000 at a $550,000 house, that's not affordable for a lot of people, Josh, right now at a 7% interest rate.
Nothing's affordable. Johnny Shield was on from one of your South County offices. Johnny Shield was on last week or the week before, and he was talking about, listen, houses that come on the market, 300,000 to 800,000, there is so much demand, 30, 40 people at a showing, 8 to 10 offers. Go up to that next price point, that middle-class family can't afford that. Jump up to another level, yes, because they have significant wealth, they're buying cash, they've gotten inheritance, they're getting help from the in-laws. But that sort of middle, that $1 million, $1.5 million house seems to be stagnating a little bit in South County. Is that true around the state?
Well, let me tell you, I pulled some stats specifically for this conversation that I found were really interesting. Because, we deal with people who are looking to purchase at all price points in this brokerage, which we're really happy to do. And, I deal a lot in the East Bay and in Providence. Those are the markets that I concentrate on. I'm always between, Bristol, Barrington, Warren, East Side, etc. I remember at the beginning of the year, maybe it was the end of last year, uh, there was a conversation that we've had with a lot of our clients, specifically in Barrington. There might have been 12 homes on the market. 12 homes. Like, there was nothing to choose from. And that there was a rolling inventory. So it was always like 10 or 12 homes. Homes are going under contract, etc. But it was really just around 12. Now we're looking at almost 40 homes in Barrington on the market. But the interesting statistic is that there are 11 homes that are on the market over $2 million. Only one's in contract. And the one that's been on the market the longest has been 62 days. The shortest has been 2 days. So what is that telling me? That there's just not a lot of demand in the primary home market for these 2 million plus homes currently. And again, a lot of that has to do with the interest rates. You look at the east side of Providence right now, 15 homes are on the market over $2 million. Only 5 of them are on contract. The average days on market for those homes right now are 33. And the highest 55. So, Josh, a lot about the east side. It's like those homes would be scooped up in a minute a year ago over around $2 million. And right now they are sitting. And that has, again, the affordability. It's really the big conversation right now with interest rates where they are. And, I think in general with the economy, with inflation and tariffs, et cetera, I'm not going to dive into down the economy rabbit hole. But it plays a huge role in people looking at, really high price point or luxury homes that are their primary residence.
What I'm amazed at is, $1 million house isn't a luxury house anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just not. It's a pretty regular house. And especially depending on the community, it may be less than a regular house.
Sure. Yeah, $1 million, it's kind of crazy to even have this conversation that $1 million almost feels like the norm right now. Because if you look at the median asking price for a home, people say, oh, Rhode Island, it's so unaffordable. $550, you take the median price of asking price for a home right now, you're taking homes into consideration from all over the spectrum in the state of Rhode Island, from Watch Hill to Pawtucket, from, Central Falls to Providence. There's a lot of homes selling at multiple price points, and for it all to average out at $550, you have to have a lot of homes that are selling in the 7 figures. So it is kind of crazy to have the conversation that $1 million is almost the average price point home.
Is the good news that that inflation was 2.4%? It's kind of in that zone that the Federal Reserve might say, okay, we're going to break the log jam here. We're going to drop a quarter point.
Yeah.
We're into June, so maybe July or August we'll drop a quarter point.
No, I don't think there's going to be any rate cuts, quite frankly. I mean, I've read a lot about it, and I think there has to be some significant movement in inflation for them to even consider it. There's a meeting today, I believe, with the Fed.
Yep, it's Thursday. Yeah.
That's right. It's Thursday. You know what?
Wednesday.
The humidity
sorry.
is throwing the humidity.
No, it's Wednesday. Sorry.
I don't see that there's any economic factors that are going to influence them to, lower rates at all. And even if they do decide to lower rates a quarter point, a lot of these mortgage companies, they've already put that in. They've already taken that into consideration to what their current interest rates are that they're offering out there. So even if the Fed makes a big move, I still think our interest rates are going to be realistically mid to high 6s.
Ben, we're not seeing a lot of apartments being built. There's some so-called low-income or affordable housing units being built, but we're not seeing that sort of plethora of it. Rhode Island continues to lag the rest of the country, almost always ranked last or nearly last in new housing per capita. So it's an apples to apples orange against apples to apples comparison against California or New Jersey or Georgia. There's some legislation coming through the General Assembly, but there's not that overarching legislation that gives a more consistent decision-making process to zoning.
Hmm.
Will we ever get a change there, or will it always be at sort of the whim of the parochialness of the zoning board or town council in Little Compton or North Smithfield or Exeter or wherever?
I'm not sure if it necessarily has a lot to do with zoning. That does play a pretty big role in the decision-making process, I think, with developers. But I think a lot of developers are really looking for some sort of subsidy from local governments, from Rhode Island as a whole, even from the federal government to help them pay for these projects, tax incentives, et cetera. And to my knowledge, I don't see a lot of those conversations happening. I follow a lot that you guys publish on GoLocal, and it seems like they're concentrating on the Washington Bridge
Yeah.
instead of housing. They're concentrating. I mean, there's projects that have been hanging out there, right? We sit in our office. I'm in Providence a lot, and I stare at the Superman building. I mean, from me looking at it, it looks like zero progress has been made. I mean, I know you guys are relatively close to it too. I mean, there's an
I
opportunity.
did see someone going in one of the doors of the Superman building the other day.
That's good. That's
Yeah, it
good.
was big advancement in that project.
So, we've always talked about these large scale projects, excuse me, and not a lot of them come to fruition, which is really discouraging because I think even one really large scale project could really have a large impact on the economy as a whole in Providence.
Yeah, absolutely. It was announced yesterday, today, that Atlantic Mills sold
Mm.
uh, a major 350,000 square foot, really historic, remarkable mill complex in the Olneyville section. I do
Yep.
think the new owners are looking to, what I hear is that they're looking to make that into residential. That would
Yep.
be, depending on how long it takes and et cetera, that could be potentially a blockbuster.
It could be, but realistically, you're looking at 18 to 24 months before you have any of those units really entering the market.
Oh,
And
keep
what happens?
going. 3648.
Yeah, I mean, so what happens between now and then? There's still nothing. There's nothing to fix our short-term problem regarding housing in the state of Rhode Island. And I think I mean, I'm not a genius when it comes to this, but I think there's ways for there to be incentives that are created through the local government to developers to come in, tax incentives, whatever it may be, Josh, to really help or push these developers over the finish line to get some projects started. And they don't have to be huge projects. A lot of these smaller condominium associations on the east side, those projects, those 3 to 4 to 5 units, those get completed relatively quickly, like 6 to 12 months. And, maybe there needs to be more programs in place to encourage people to convert multifamilies into condominiums or loosen up zoning so they can add additional units, maybe in the back or on the side or whatever it may be.
Right.
Um, yeah, there needs to be more for sure.
Is anyone building ADUs? I think, there's a consensus that it's a cool idea, and in some states it's been embraced. California, I think, has been very successful at building ADUs, kind of, in-law units, take down the garage, put up a little 3 bedroom there. You leverage off some of the existing infrastructure and create
Yep.
that other housing unit. I'm not seeing it happen anywhere in Providence around my neck of the woods, Fox Point, East Side, Mount Hope section. Is it
Sure.
taking off at all?
I think in certain parts of the state, it certainly is taking off. The problem we're going to see in Providence is that your minimum lot is like 5,000 square feet to 7,500 square feet, right? And to put an ADU on, I believe it's a 10,000 square foot lot at a minimum you have to have. So even if you're meeting that 10,000 square foot minimum lot, putting an ADU on that property is difficult. It's
Yeah.
not easy. And you're losing a lot of people love their green space. They like having gardens. They like having, whatever swing sets for kids or, whatever it may be. And to put an ADU on there really takes up a big chunk of land. So where I'm seeing it, pop up more and more are just larger parcels. And they don't have to be huge. They can be 50,000 square foot lots, maybe an acre and a quarter, an acre and a half. And what a lot of people are doing with the ADUs is they're combining them with like pool houses. So they're putting in a nice pool and they're having like a little cabana on the bottom and an apartment on top. Or they're adding there's more flexibility regarding in-laws. So if you're in a position where like, hey, I don't want to, put my parents or my in-laws in my basement and do a walkout. we can do an ADU. But you're 100% right, Josh. I mean, the concept seems so cool. Like, and there's all these companies that have kind of been soliciting us. They're like, New England Tiny Home.
Yeah.
It's like we're the experts in ADUs and small houses. And you look at these, what they're building and what they're doing and what they're proposing, and it looks really cool. But I think it's easier said than done with the ADUs. Everybody got really excited about it, and just don't see a lot of activity with them right now.
Have you seen any homes that added an ADU and then sold again, and how that's impacted the value of that property?
Not yet. It's too early. I mean, that ADU law really came into play,
2 years
January?
ago.
No, I
Yeah,
think
maybe effective January, a year and a half ago.
effective January. So realistically, I think we're probably going to not see how the market kind of absorbs the ADUs until, I don't know, maybe end of next year, maybe, another 12 to 18 months. And you have to think a lot of people who are putting these ADUs on their property are for very specific needs, maybe for, again, in-laws or
Right.
for visiting family. They're not doing it necessarily to increase their property value right out of the gate to put it on the market, because everything's expensive, right? To build these ADUs, it's not going to be cheap. Lumber, the labor, etc., is still very expensive. So, I think people, if they're exploring ADUs, it's going to be for a very specific immediate need. And also for a long-term need, not to put an ADU on their property to say, hey, I'm flipping this, or hey, there's going to be an immediate increase in my property value for when I go to sell it in the next, 1 to 2 years, whatever it may be.
Ben, kind of final question. We're at 512,750 for the median price of a single-family home. This year, where are we going? What's going to be the price December 31st?
So, I mean, all the national numbers are kind of, let me just back up a second. I've always said that Rhode Island is probably about 6 months behind the national numbers. And more specifically about, 3 months behind Boston and New York and Connecticut. And they are seeing, their average price, their median price either flatten out or start to come down a little bit, with home sales being down nationwide almost 6%. The median price of a home in the country is $441,000, and that's only up 1%. So that's not a huge jump compared to the huge jumps that we've been seeing historically. So if I had a magic ball in front of me right now and I were to make a prediction, Josh, I'd probably say we're going to see that median price go up a little bit more, because historically in the summer going into the fall, that's what we've seen. We've seen them in the 4s go up to almost hit 5. And now we've seen them in the high 4s, the median price in the high 4s for a very long time. And it's probably going to get up to 525, 530, something like that. But if I were to make a prediction, I would probably see the market start to really, cap off at this point in time, probably by the end of this year.
So maybe 520, 530, but that no higher than that.
No higher than that. I don't think it's going to get much higher than that, because I think, again, the affordability is playing a huge role right now in people who are looking to purchase. But, if the interest rates come down, that's a whole different story.
All bets are off.
Throw the wrench into the gears. I don't want to compare it to the pandemic, but it could have a very similar effect. You're engaging, a lot more buyers are going to be engaged into the market if they're working with a far less interest rate than 6.8%. We saw it happen. We saw the rates go from 5 to 3.5, and it was just pandemonium during 2020 to 2022. So, there's still a lot of money out there. There's still a lot of cash buyers. There's still a lot of people who have really good jobs and they can afford, pretty hefty mortgages. So I do think the price will go up a little bit more. I don't see it ever really exceeding like that 550. Boston's been in Massachusetts has been in the 6s for a while now. They haven't jumped to like the 7s. So, that's going to be my prediction.
Got it. And you referenced the Magic 8 Ball. With Benny's closed, where exactly can you buy a Magic 8 Ball to be able to answer these key questions?
I love supporting local, but if I want it at my door next day, it's Amazon. Sorry.
Ben Scungio from Mott Chace, always a great help in understanding the real estate market. For everybody else, stay tuned to much more. There is stuff going on nonstop around here. We'll have much more updates throughout the day and into the night. And looks like the weather's clearing up a little bit. And in Massachusetts, it's all about Karen Reed legal decision. So stay tuned on that as well. Thanks, everybody.